All right, what's going on? We got Chris Simmons in the podcast today. Chris Simmons is the Rimfire PRS World Champion. What's going on, Chris?
How are you?
I'm doing well. So, let's talk about Rimfire.
What you want to talk about?
Everything. Tell me everything. Tell me all the
all
secrets.
my secrets.
Yes, I want to know what it is that it takes to become the world champion.
Well, it takes a lot of work. I'll just go ahead and tell you that.
So, how did all this start for you?
So I started in 2004 for my high school ROTC air rifle team. I actually went out for tryouts for the team. Didn't make it my first year. Kind of made me mad. So I went out and bought my own gun and went home and started shooting. Come back the following year, made the team, but we made it to nationals, and they still didn't put me on the team. I went as an alternate, and ended up winning the whole thing as an alternate. So that's kind of where it all began. It kind of lit my fire. So
why were you not on the team? I mean, obviously you were good.
I think because at that time I was it'd be a sophomore, and the other guys were seniors and juniors. So I was kind of the fresh new guy. So maybe they thought I wouldn't be able to compete at the national level.
Wow. So you were a national champion when you were a sophomore?
I won it sophomore, junior, and senior year.
Wow. That's pretty good.
So, yeah, like I said, going out the first year, and they're like, no, you're not good enough to be on the team. So kind of went home, started shooting on my own, practicing, come back the following year and showed them I was good enough.
There you go. That's there's no debate now. So okay, so you're shooting air rifle. You know, of course, then you graduate and all that good stuff. So at what point do you transition to Rimfire and to PRS?
So actually, while I was shooting air rifle in high school, I started shooting 3-position small bore and small bore silhouette. While I was in high school, and still shooting the air rifle as well.
So what about PRS? When did you start getting heavy into that?
So I guess PRS I started 4 years ago, maybe 4 to 5 years ago. I really got heavy into PRS. I actually started in Centerfire, shot a few Centerfire matches, and they was just so far to drive. And then the NRL 22, the monthly stuff started popping up, and they was closer. So I was like, well, I'll just shoot that. Then I got heavy into the 22 stuff.
So how do you get into you talk about the team in high school that you couldn't make. How do you make the team to go to the World Championship in NRL?
So they used your top 2 national championship scores. So the PRS finale, PRS 22 finale, and the NRL 22 finale. I won both of those the qualifying years. And then I want to say they used your top 3 like regional series matches. PRS and NRL. And there had to be so many shooters for it to qualify as like a qualifier match.
So obviously you made it with flying colors if you won both of the big ones.
Yeah, I won NRL 22 and PRS 22 the same year. Swept both series.
Wow, that's pretty good. So what's the trick to the 22? I mean, is there a trick? Like, how much do you rely on the rifle shooting really good? I know in Centerfire we kind of rely on it quite a bit, but the 22, it's kind of you got to use factory ammo, all that good stuff. So what's the secret sauce? Or at least what's your secret sauce?
Definitely lot testing, using the test centers that the companies have. Saves you a whole lot of time, and you wouldn't believe the difference from lot to lot of, let's say Lapua ammunition. You may have a good lot, and then you'll have a lot that's just shoots.
So you take your rifle over to the testing center, or you send it in, or however that's done. You send it in. I mean, you can do both, right? You can send it in or
You
bring it yourself.
you can do both. I send them in. If I don't have time to go up to Ohio and see Shane, you can send them out and they'll do it for you and send you all the results and give you a call and let you pick one, or you can drive. It's nice to be able to go up there and do it, in person, watch it happen.
Now, do you shoot the rifle when you're in person, or do they do it?
No, the tech will shoot it.
Do they put it in any kind of device, or they just kind of freehand it?
It's in a vise, so they have action blocks. So if you're shooting on shoots or voodoo or whatever you're shooting, they have different blocks you can put it in, or you can clamp it in a vise, which is what I do in whatever your stock or chassis that you're shooting.
Oh, okay. So what's like lot to lot? How much difference is there in group size, and how big of a group size are they doing?
So it tests at 50 meters and 100 meters, at the same time. And they do it in millimeters. I'd have to look at a paper and see what the average was on some of my group. But it's a pretty big variation. And they'll shoot 10 of one lot. If it's a good group, they'll shoot another 10 to make sure it repeats. And if that's a good group, they'll shoot another 10 for a total of 30. But let's say if it's a bad lot, they'll just shoot 10 and they'll just move on to another lot.
Let's say if they find a really good lot, like your gun is just a hammer with that one lot. How many are available? Does it vary? I'm sure it varies. I don't know how that works. Like, how many can you buy?
So unless they have to have at least a case, so they won't even test that lot unless they have 5,000 rounds of it. Sometimes they may have 20,000 rounds of that lot, but they will at least have 5,000.
Okay, all right. So that's convenient because you want to be able to at least buy a case of it.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you want at least 5,000 rounds if you're going to buy it. And at one time, I think you could only buy one case, but they might have lifted that since COVID and ammunition's kind of coming back around.
Now, once you have your lot tested or your rifle lot tested, then what happens? Obviously there's a lot of training that goes into it, right? Like, do you have, obviously that's your like good stuff, right? Do you have a separate lot that's okay, that maybe that's your practice lot, and then you have your good stuff, or is it all good stuff?
Yeah, so I'll have another lot of stuff that I usually practice with. So I'll just do barricade training. I'll do drills with it, and then I'll save my lot tested stuff for matches and truing and getting data.
Now the rifle, what is what are we talking about here as far as the rifle, the components that go into a world class PRS rimfire rifle?
So the rifle I won the worlds with was a Voodoo Gunwork V22, and it was a Gen 1 with a Krieger 116 twist, 23-inch barrel. And then my gunsmith Motorcam custom rifles, Jonathan, and then Masterpiece Arms chassis.
What do you use for scope?
At that time, I was running a Tangent Theta.
Have you changed since then?
Yeah. So now I'm running a Zero Compromise 527.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. So pretty much top of the line stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. When you're going that far, you gotta have confidence in your equipment, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Are barrel tuners a big deal in Rimfire PRS?
Yeah, very big deal. Let's see, PRS 22 Finale and the NRL 22 Finale. I was running your tuner, actually, the Gen 1.
So, I know you do the lot testing. How does the tuner come into play? If you're already doing the lot testing, what's the tuner for?
So when I do lot testing, I do it without the tuner, because I want to know what the rifle's capable of as it sits. And then, I'll put the tuner on and just gain that little extra advantage.
Where was the World Championship at?
It was in Italy, about 2 hours north of Rome, and I could not even begin to pronounce the city. Calzone, I want to say.
Was the rifle when you guys got there? Did anything change as how well it shot, or did it shoot the same when you got there? Being that it's totally different place.
No, I was a little worried about that, but the temperature in the DA was pretty much the same as here. Um, I shot probably for 2 weeks straight before I left, just testing. I'd be up at 6:30 in the morning, before work, and I would shoot until I had to go to work. Some days if I was in town, I'd come home, shoot at lunch, and just get data, a different DA or different temperature. And then when I get off work, I would shoot, just gathering data, different temperatures, conditions.
Yeah, that's key right there. You got to have data, right? I mean, it's everything's driven by data, and that's the same thing that we do, in F class Centerfire. We, at least I do. I gather data, and like you said, I log everything, and then when I travel, like when I went to South Africa, it was very similar to here, so didn't have to change much. My rifle was slightly out of tune. It was slightly different, but I was able during the practice day to bring it right back in, and everything was honky dory. Now, one of my rifles was way out of tune, and I don't know why, but I was able to bring it back in tune. And then during the nationals, I shot both rifles. So in F class, especially with a Palma format, you can only shoot one rifle per day. Because the entire Palma format is 1 day. It's one match. It's 45 shots, but it's one match. We shoot 15 at 800 yards, 15 at 900, and 15 at 1,000. So once you start with a rifle, you have to maintain the same rifle. So I shot one rifle 1 day. I shot the other rifle the next day. But one day we were cut short because of rain. So the following day, we were able to shoot the 800, 900, 1,000. And then immediately after that, we got to shoot the next 1,000 from the previous day that we needed to make up. So that allowed me to shoot both of my rifles at 1,000 yards back to back and really do a really good comparison. And anyway, luckily they were both just hammering. And, I ended up winning the national championship shooting two different rifles testing. So
there you go.
That worked out pretty good. That told me I had really good rifles, and it just kind of settled the nerves going into the world championship.
So when you say you had to when you got to South Africa, you had to tune it. Are you tuning it for different DAs, different temperatures?
Well, so what I do is I have multiple, as you probably do as well, multiple settings that shoot really good, right? And like I'll start with my base setting, and then once I get there, if that doesn't shoot, I'll test some of the other settings that I've tested that shot really well here. And it's a shortcut in a way. And
yeah,
I tried the setting that I had wasn't. One rifle was done. It shot great. The next one wasn't. So I tried the other one of the other settings, and man, it was a hammer. And I'm like, all right, leave it alone.
right.
But that one day that I was a bit worried, the day that it rained, because that changed everything. The front moved in, but I was able to ride the tuner effectively and keep the rifle in tune, which is it's pretty nerve wracking because it's like it's hammering, and then you're like, okay, going to the next match, I'm gonna have to change my setting, trying to stay ahead of it, because F class, it's so competitive. You drop 1 point, you fall way behind. So if you turn that tuner the wrong way, you're in big trouble.
And you only get what, 2-siders?
Yeah, in Palma format, you get 2-siders. So, like I said, there was no room for error. In the United States, we get unlimited siders, so you can use those siders to kind of tune the rifle. But in international competition, 2-siders, and not only that, they're convertible siders. So you want to hit center and convert those siders so that You get 2 siders and 15 for record, but they're convertible siders. So if both of your first shots are good, now you only have 13 shots to go versus 15. So they're very valuable. You wanna hit those.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Now back to your PRS match. Do you have a backup rifle, or you just kind of have one?
So here in the States, I have a backup rifle. Going to Italy with the paperwork, I didn't get to take a backup rifle.
Oh,
That
so
was,
you
that was a little nerve wracking, but like I said, I had confidence in my gear, so wasn't really a big deal.
Yeah, that's in 2016 in Canada. I took one rifle to the World Championship, and everybody was giving me looks like, "Really? That are you serious? You only brought one rifle?" I'm like, "They only let me shoot one at a time." But my daughter was there; she was shooting the other rifle. So, push come to shove, I would use her rifle, but mine shot great.
Yeah, I took a lot of spare parts, stuff that I thought would break, and I could swap pretty easily. So
In PRS, what's the rule for mechanical failure? So let's just say you're shooting a stage and your trigger goes down. It's a 10 shot match, 10 point match. You get 6 hits and then your trigger goes completely down. Like it's a mechanical failure. Is that like too bad, or do you get to make it
uh,
up?
so no, you're done for that stage. And then you could go it happened to me this weekend. I had a trigger go down halfway through the stage. So I pulled out of the stage. It's like, hey, I'm gonna go swap my trigger. Go back to the truck, swap a trigger. Uh, you know, they'll verify that the rifle's safe, and you can continue on.
Okay, so if you only got 6 and your trigger went down, then you just get 6 points, right?
Right. Or
Yeah.
if you have accidental discharge, or say you close the bolt and the gun goes off, that's accidental discharge. Then you get a 0 for the stage. But as long as you can get it fixed, you can continue on.
So let's talk about AD versus ND. So accidental versus negligent. Accidental is what you described. You close the bolt, the trigger failed, the gun goes off, you get a 0. What happens with an ND? Let's say you're being unsafe and you just send one over the berm because you're not being careful. What happens then?
So you 0 for the match, and you get to go home.
So you get pretty much disqualified in a way.
Yes.
So they
Yeah.
give you a 0 for the whole match.
Yeah. So if you
Wow.
accidentally hit the trigger, gun goes off, that's a negligent discharge. It happens. Uh, they just give you a 0 for the match. You're welcome to hang out, watch the rest of the match, help the squad. But yeah, you're done for the day, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean it's serious stuff. So I figured it was kind of some pretty heavy duty punishment because
Yeah.
that's no joke. Um, so you go to France. You're traveling. Is that the first time you've been to Italy?
That's the first time I've been out of the country. Yeah.
Wow. So you're not only first time out of the country, but you're going to a world championship with one rifle to yeah. Oh man, that's interesting because we travel. I remember the first time I traveled with a rifle overseas. And you talk about the paperwork. What a pain. And different countries are have different laws, but like going to South Africa, it was kind of tough. Going to I go to England all the time. That's pretty simple. What was Italy like?
Italy was pretty tough. Fortunately, I was probably the eighth or 10th guy coming in from the U.S. By the time I landed, they kind of had the paperwork and the process figured out. But the first couple of guys that was coming in, they had a real hard time.
Yeah, you don't want to be the first one, especially if they don't know the process. Oh my God, it drags
Uh,
out. And I haven't been the first one, but um, again, I've heard the stories of the first ones, and it ain't no fun.
yeah, actually, leaving was harder for me than coming in. Uh, they literally told us at the ticket counter when me and another guy showed up. They're like, "You're not going to leave today. this is serious. This is a serious problem."
Uh oh, what was the
Uh,
problem?
they just didn't. The girls at the ticket counter just, they seen the firearms and they just panicked. But
Ah.
luckily they got some help and they got the paperwork figured out.
Yeah, that had to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, it was. It's a little scary being stuck in a foreign country.
Yeah. Well, what about ammo? How do you transport the ammo? Do you have to ship it, or I mean, you can probably bring enough of it with you, right?
So that was kind of an odd thing for them is we was only allowed 200 rounds per person and 10 round mags only. I actually had paperwork for my wife, so she brought 200 rounds and I brought 200 rounds. So that allowed me some ammo to practice with. The same lot that I'd be shooting, and 200 rounds for the mag.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Again, this is back to the weird rules. Like, what's the deal with a 200 round limit, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
200 rounds and 10 round mag.
now I hope there weren't any stages that had more than 10 rounds in them.
Yeah, there was several.
So
Yeah,
you
we had
had
to
to do
do.
mag changes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's part of it, right? And I guess if everybody's shooting a 10 round mag, so I guess it doesn't matter as long as it's even.
yeah.
Now, so you go to the World Championship, right? You're there. You're obviously probably nervous. You've never been out of the country, and you're just there. What I call the big stage. How how different was that than your typical matches here in the States?
Really wasn't that bad. I've shot enough big matches. I've been shooting 20 years. I've shot a lot of really big matches. Um, it doesn't really bother me. Um, Probably the hardest thing was the language barrier, between ROs and the shooters. And then, their process was a little different than ours. But it seems like after the first day, it kind of got all the bugs worked out and it ran pretty smoothly.
How does the squatting work? Do they just put people in the same squad from all over the world?
So for the most part, they had one person from each country in every squad. So like
Mm.
I was in a squad with 9 other guys and they was from 9 different countries.
Well, so talk about language barrier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what's the equipment like from the other shooters from the other countries? Is it pretty similar to what you had, or are they drastically different?
No, I would say they're a little disadvantaged on equipment, um, as far as what we're available to get versus what they can get. There's a few countries had this kind of the same stuff we use, um, but for the most part, they're using stuff that we used 3 or 4 years ago.
What do you mean? What kind of stuff?
It's kind of odd. So like the way I explained it to guys is like when PRS first started here, that's kind of how that's kind of the style that they was shooting as far as their bags. Like, they didn't have Armageddon gear game changers for the most part. They had some other company bags. Um, and just their positions was just, like I said, stuff we done 3 or 4 years ago, when we first started. Like we've evolved so fast versus them. PRS is fairly new, overseas, I believe. I think they've only been shooting it about 2 years.
What was the biggest positional mistake they were making that you noticed?
Um, Mainly just not getting rear support. Like when I shoot, anything other than standing, I have bone on bone support or I have a big rear bag or we use like tripod rear. Um, they just wasn't doing that. Like I said, they was kind of shooting it like a deer hunter would, have a tree stand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, PRS obviously is more advanced here. This is where he kind of was born, but uh, it's back to the what do they have available, right? They don't have what we have available, and
Yeah.
the knowledge, it seems like it's all coming from here. So, they kind of hear through the grapevine, or maybe somebody's making videos about it, or kind of that's how they learn. But you guys are kind of the forefront of the evolution of PRS.
Yeah, exactly. And it was funny. The first few stages, nobody was really talking to each other. It's all kind of serious competition. And halfway through the first day, we're kind of talking. They start asking me questions, and I start giving them wind calls, and letting them borrow my bags. Like, hey, watch me shoot this stage and watch my position. You try to repeat what I do, and by the end of the match, we was all kind of buddies. I was helping them all. I think they learned quite a bit.
Yeah, sounds like you decided to help them after you made sure you got a head start on them.
yeah, exactly. Gotta get a few points up and be like, okay.
Yeah, all right, now I can help you. Yeah, well, I mean, it's and that's the great thing, right? I mean, it is competition, and that's the part I like about world championships and going overseas. It is competition, but they're always asking, kind of like they were asking you. They're always asking us, the Americans, what are you guys doing? What and they're always asking about load development and barrels, and just kind of the things that we have available that they don't, and they're asking for the secret sauce, because number one, they don't have the means to test like we have. They don't have all that available, so they're saying, hey, shortcut the process for me, please. And just give me the secret sauce. Just straight, just tell me what you use, because I'm just going to duplicate it, And that's pretty smart of them, actually, to simply take something that's working for us and just simply duplicate it, because they don't have what we have available. I mean, barrels, heck, we can just order barrels left and right. They for them, some of them it's a nightmare to get a barrel.
Oh yeah. So I was talking to several guys. Unless the factory does the work, you can't make any changes to the rifle. Like they couldn't put a Krieger barrel, on a, let's just say a CZ rifle or
on anything,
what have
really.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it's tough, Now, so was there at any point, did you win by a really big margin?
So me and Paul Dolan from the USA tied. And I think I had him by 23 seconds.
Wow. Wow. So,
and they timed every stage. That's the aggregate of time over 20 stages. So it come down to 23 seconds over 20, total of 20 stages.
So you were just beating them by like 3/4 of a second per stage.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was close.
It's close.
Wow. So the way I understand it is, how many American shooters were there on Team USA?
I think it was 20 total.
How many on the actual team? Because you guys, the way PRS, I understand, you guys do simultaneous individual and team competition.
Yeah. For the worlds, so you have open. There was 6 shooters. Factory, there was 6 shooters, and then you have ladies and juniors and seniors.
So you were, what class were you?
Open.
So there were 6 members or 6 shooters in open.
Yeah.
I know you were competing against the entire open field, but pretty much you based on the discussion we've had so far about the advantages that Team USA shooters had over the rest of the world, you pretty much had to beat your own teammates to win the individual world championship, correct?
Basically, yeah.
But because they're spread out over the entire field in different squads, did you know how they were doing?
Just on the end of day one, which you could look. It was all live scoring, so I could have gone there and looked, but I never look at scores. Till it's said and done.
I know someone like that. It helps you in no way, in my opinion.
No.
It's like, just follow your process, and when it's all said and done, you're either going to win or not. That's it.
I can't control how you shoot, and you can't control how I shoot. So
Yeah, exactly. So why worry about it? Uh, so how many days did you guys shoot?
so the competition was 2 days total, but it wasn't like, our matches, you shoot Saturday and Sunday. So we had an off day in between our days. So that was, for me, that was mentally tough because I wasn't used to that. Um, and I got a lot of texts after the first day, people asking, "Hey, what happened?" Or, even though I didn't look at the score, I could tell probably where I was, and that was behind.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, because they keep saying, what's wrong?
Yeah.
So you go into the last day. Well, that's tough. You guys, they snuck a day in between to really let you think about it, I guess. It's just the pressure just builds when you're not shooting. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about the score. Like you said, people are coming up to you going, "Hey, well, what happened?" Or "How did it go?" Or whatever. Or if you're in the lead, they're coming up to you going, "Man, good job. Keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing." And things of that nature. And you're like, "Well, what do you do?" But now on top of that, they snuck a whole day in between for all that to kind of build up. I'm sure that's not why they did it, but still, that's just mentally, that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, open, and I think juniors shot the same day, and then our day off, seniors and factory shot the same day. So after that first day, I told my wife, I said, "Hey, let's go see the country and try to get my mind off shooting. Try to get my mind off things, get settled back down."
Do you have a certain process that you use for shooting, for kind of getting your mind straight? You talk about getting your mind off of shooting when you're not shooting. What about when you're shooting? How do you get into the shooting mindset?
So I have a series of checklists. I use checklists for everything, and that's just to mainly get me focused and to make sure I don't skip over anything. That's probably the most detrimental thing in this sport is, you know, forgetting to dial your dope or leaving a scope cap open, not loading a full mag. That's all little things that can cost you points, pretty easily. So, like I said, I use checklists, for every, have like a pre-stage checklist, pre-shot checklist, and post-stage checklist. So it's just things to keep me mentally in check throughout the day and throughout each stage.
What about rifle maintenance? What do you do?
Like before a match?
Well, before or during. And when I say during is, for example, for us, we go into a match, and when the day's over, we go and we clean the rifle. We just clean the barrel. What do you do for a rimfire rifle? At the end of the day, let's say.
At the end of the day, I clean the rifle, take it apart, clean the barrel, clean the action really good, take the bolt apart, clean it.
So you actually clean the barrel every day.
Clean it, yeah. If I shoot it, I clean it.
Okay. Have you found that to give you more consistency, or what's the reasoning behind it?
I think a guy once said, what's more consistent, a dirty barrel or a clean barrel?
Yeah, I think what the guy said is I can keep it consistently clean, but I can't keep it consistently dirty.
There you
Something
go.
along those lines.
Something along those lines.
And that's what we do. And I just didn't know if you guys did the same. Obviously, being a 22, it's different. And I don't know. Like me personally, that's what I would do just because that's what I know, right? But I don't know based on your experience. But obviously, if it's working, don't change it.
Yeah, and that's a bad thing in PRS is I hear that so often. It's like, oh, well, I don't clean until it quits shooting. Or, when it quits shooting bad, I'll clean it. I'm like, well, if it quits shooting halfway through a match, you don't know.
Yeah, that's too late. If it's shooting big, you waited too long. It's like waiting for your lifters to start knocking before you change the oil in your car.
Exactly. Yeah, so like you said, if I shoot it, I clean it consistently. You don't have any problems.
Yeah. Well, it's you go back to the, for example, you have 1 day worth of data, right? And you went from clean to, I don't know, 100 rounds. How many rounds do you guys do in a day?
Typically 100 rounds.
So you have data on that rifle for 1 day, 100 rounds, and you know that you went from clean barrel to 100 rounds, 0 issues. It shot great. Well, if tomorrow you get it right back to the same point, then you should expect the same results. And that's kind of how I look at it. That's why I clean my rifles. I just maintain it inside of that 100 round mark where I know I'm going to have 0 issues, and I have 100% confidence when I do that.
Exactly.
So, so you're behind on day 1. You go into day 2. Obviously, you can't help it, but you're behind. How many points were you behind?
I want to say 2. I think it was 2 shots.
Now, the thing about PRS, though, that most people don't understand is you guys were not shooting the exact same stages, were you?
I think, yeah. So for this match, all the squads shot the same stages. Typically,
okay.
Here, like you said, we may not shoot all the same stages. So day 1 scores is kind of hard to look at and tell where you're at. But yeah, over there we shot the same stages the same day.
Oh, okay. But at the same time, you guys were not shooting them at the same time because you guys were in different squads. So
exactly,
it's still it's easier to kind of compare, but it's still not the same, right? Because let's say he got a long range stage early in the morning when there was no wind, and you had to shoot at 2 p.m. It's drastically different, even though it's the same stage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you go into day 2, day 2, you're 2 points behind. Is that in your mindset at all, or are you just saying, I'm just gonna follow my process and whatever happens, happens?
Yeah, you just got to focus on the process and shoot your match. Like I said, I can't control anybody else how they shoot. They can't control how I shoot. But if I'm gonna get beat, I'm gonna beat myself. Typically.
Yeah, that's that's so true. And that's what happens. Shooters oftentimes they find an excuse. So we don't do it on purpose, right? I've done it. I did it. I've done it. I still do it. And it's not. I call it an excuse, but that's just I don't have a better word for it. But you make a bad shot and you go the wind, or I had a fly, or whatever. So let's say everybody's cleaning a stage and you drop a point or 2. The best thing to do is just put it behind you, go to the next one. But it's hard to do that because now you just feel like, oh my God, I already dropped 2 points. I just dropped 2 freaking points. Everybody's shooting clean. I'm falling behind. And now it kind of almost gives you permission mentally to screw up the next stage because you already screwed it up, right? What does it matter anymore? And that is it's so tough to just put it behind you and push through, because that may be the only 2 points you drop all day. But if you let it bother you, it may be the reason that you drop more.
Yeah, that's where you separate the top guys, from those mid pack bottom guys. Is a top guy will have a bad stage, and the next stage he'll clean it, and the next stage he'll clean it or drop 1, and he'll continue on from. Now to do that every weekend is extremely hard, but like I said, those checklists and having a process can help you move on from a bad stage.
Yeah, it's so hard. Mentally it's hard, but once you kind of get used to it, and you have to learn to lose. That's just the name of the game.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna lose way more than you ever win. So get used to losing. Quit letting it bother you, and once you quit letting losing bother you, you start winning. It's a weird thing.
Yes. People don't realize how, shooting is probably 95% mental. Crazy.
Yeah, it's incredible. So, you're trucking day 2. Obviously, is that the person that you caught, the you were behind? That's the person you tied with at the end?
Yeah.
So you made up those 2 points. How many points did you drop on day 1?
I think I dropped 6. I want to say 6 day 1 and 4 day 2.
All right, so he did the opposite. He dropped 4 and 6.
We just flip flop.
Yeah, and came down to time. So when did you know that you won? Like the minute you fire your last shot, or was there some figuring out who did
No,
what?
I'd actually loaded everything up and we had went back to our Airbnb and I think I was taking a shower getting ready for the award ceremony. My wife's like, she was checking the scores and they'd finally uploaded and she's like, you know, you're the world champion.
Wow, that's amazing. I remember my and it doesn't happen instantaneously. It doesn't happen for us. So I don't know if it happened for you guys because you said you guys had live scoring. But do you guys have a challenge period?
Typically they give you about 15 minutes arbitration once the scores are up. You know, you check your scores. But anymore, like when you leave the stage, you know, that's pretty much final. Like you have
Yeah.
to sign the tablet with your name, look at your score, sign it. And once you leave, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So 2013, no, 2017, Canada. Uh, I was 19th place going into the last day of the World Championship. And I just decided 19th or 50th, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna go for it, And I was making some really bold calls that day. And again, I don't look at the score, so I had no idea how I finished up. We go back to the hotel, and my daughter was with me, so we're getting ready for the award ceremony. And same deal, I started getting texts, and I moved from 19th to 5th place. And I remember we saw that, and we were celebrating, we're jumping on the bed. It was a great time, but yeah, it just it doesn't happen instantaneously, which is I don't know, it just kind of builds up a little, a little
Oh yeah.
to the anticipation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a roller coaster. I mean, it's hard to explain to people the emotions that goes into it.
Yeah, it's there's emotion for sure. Especially, I don't know. I mean, I'm speaking for myself here, but I have learned to just shut it down completely until it's over, and then I look at the scores, and then all of a sudden it hits. When does it hit for you?
Yeah, at the end, like I said, I was in the shower and she come in there and was like, you're the world champion. It took me a second. It's just surreal. It's like, wow. And it's just like, I could take a deep breath, be like, wow, all this work, it's finally over. It was just amazing.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. When we won the world championship, Team USA, we won the world championship in South Africa. It was we were behind on day one, and day two we went, and we had a great 800-yard line. So there's 8 shooters, and it's every country has 8 shooters on the team. So we go to the 800-yard line, and out of all the shooters shooting 15 shots each, we only dropped 1 point. Everybody shot clean except for 1 point. So we were, that's kind of where the charge started. We're like, okay, all right, we just got to keep it going. We go to 900, and we were 6 points behind on day one. On day two, we start, and I think we made up 3 points there. We go to 900 yards, and we tie. After 900 yards, we're tied. We're dead tied. So it all comes down to 1,000 yards, and you have 8 shooters that have to do 15 shots. So what is that? 120 shots. So you got 120 shots that are going to decide who the next world champion is going to be, and it's supposed to be random drawing. But we ended up, the top 3 teams were right next to each other. So even if you didn't want to see how they're doing, I mean, I'm a win coach, so I'm looking through a spotting scope, so I can see multiple targets, So I'm seeing our targets, and I'm seeing their targets too, just because of the field of view. And, sometimes we were not shooting, and they were shooting, and then, man, they were pounding 5s and Vs, like just destroying the center of the target. And it just makes you wonder whether we should be shooting, like, should we be shooting right now, But it's it takes extreme self-control to not say, let's go, and follow their lead. Obviously, we had multiple coaches. I was just one of the coaches. We had 4 coaches total. So we all had to be in agreement, right? And it was tough to just sit there and watch the other teams just pound the center of the target. But we waited it out. We waited for our condition. And when it was all said and done, we shot the last shot. And then they have boards. Every team had a board, and they're adding up all the scores, And, it was 3,600 points total. And I'm watching, they're adding it up, and I actually had my camera, I was filming, and I'm trying to add it up in my head, because I'm filming with my phone, so I can't use the calculator. So I'm trying to add it up in my phone, and I'm looking to all my teammates going, somebody do the math. And everybody's trying to do it in their head, and they're doing it wrong. And it's just like, no, that ain't right. And anyway, so long story short, we won by 5 points, which is out of 3,600 points, we won by 5. It's not much, but anyway, that's when we find out, because I didn't know. All I saw was those 3 teams, but there's plenty others. And because I don't look at scores, I had no idea who else was in the mix. Like, okay, we beat these guys. Who else is in it?
Right.
And they said, no, that's it. We won. And at that point, like, all the emotions, it just finally happened. Like, it was a great time. I remember it. It's amazing.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I struggled after I won the Worlds. It's like, okay, so what do you do now? Do you go back and try to win it again? Or do you say, okay, I've won it, let's try something different?
Well, that's up to you, right? I mean, obviously winning the World Championship's a massive accomplishment. And, one that obviously took you a lot of work. But that's a common thing, like Lanny Basham in his book, have you read With Winning in Mind?
Oh, absolutely.
He talks about when he won the Olympics. Same thing. He says that was one of the most depressing days in his life, because now the thing he'd been chasing, he had just caught it. And now it's like, what do I do now? And that's up to you. Obviously it's an accomplishment. You're there. You won it. It's yours. Enjoy it, but at the same time, I think at that point you're free to do whatever you want. And a lot of people feel like, well, I need to win it again, because otherwise they're going to think it was a fluke. Doesn't matter. You're the world champion. That's how I look at it,
Yeah.
My buddy Larry Tate and I used to joke, because at the time, 220X at 1,000 yards, that means 20 shots inside the X ring. That's an incredible score. And at the time, nobody was even shooting 200s, much less 20Xs, right? And Larry and I used to joke, and he said that if he ever shot a 220X, he'd just get up, put a chamber flag in his rifle, and be like, it's all free. You guys take it. I'm done. He was just going to walk away into the sunset. But, it's I think once you're the world champion, man, you decide. It's nobody can take that away from you. And I say do whatever you want. Enjoy it.
It's funny because we come back, and I think I had the regional, like the Atlantic Coast Regional PRS 22 match was like the next weekend I got back. And man, I was so just burnt out. I got my teeth kicked in, and I was like, you know what? It's time to do something else, because my heart's just not in it anymore. I've done what I wanted to do, and I need to go do something else and be challenged again.
So what are you doing?
Shooting Centerfire.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so pretty much the same thing, but you just Centerfire. So it's a different game, different competitors, just a different challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you got to spice it up. I talk about having on years and off years. And for me, what I figured out to keep me engaged is doing for example, right now I'm on an off year, meaning we just had the World Championship last year. The next one is 26. I'm just going to have fun for the next couple of years. Just go to matches, maybe not prepare as much. Just try to go and have fun like I used to. Remember when we used to go for fun? Try to do that again. You know, just try to do that again. And then what I try to do is ramp up the year of the World Championship, or maybe 6 months before. You know, that's when I go, okay, time to get serious again. And that's when I start really working hard to get everything back. And then, you know, the idea is to peak at the World Championship. And then after that, just because it's a lot of work to stay prepared and maintain that level that is required for you to win major championships. It's tough.
It's so tough. So tough.
You know, the other thing that's tough after winning a world championship or after winning a national championship or anything is, you know, like you talk about, you go to that match that you went to after winning a world championship, and, you know, you don't win, and people are saying, I beat the world champion. I just beat the world champion. And somehow they think now they're the world champion. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. If you were the world championship, if you were at the world championship and won it, that's the only way you become a world champion. Beating the world champion at a club match or at any match does not take the title away. He's still the world champion, he, she, whoever, and you're not. You want to be a world champion? Get ready, go to the next world championship, because the level of preparation that we as shooters put in for a club match versus the world championship is drastically different. Drastically different. So if you beat a world champion, national champion at a club match, don't get me wrong, it's great. It's great that you're working at something, but it's not the same thing than beating them at the big stage, where they're going to show up with their best equipment, with their best mindset, with the best preparation that they could have. Beat them there, and then guess what? You'll be the world champion.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I mean, you know, when I go to a club match, you know, I may shoot 1 day or 2 days that week after work. You know, when I was preparing for the Worlds, you know, I was shooting every day, 3 times a day. You know, morning, lunch, and evening, you know, 100, 200 rounds, you know, for weeks and weeks before.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, you know, and you work so hard. There's no way you can maintain that. There's no way. Especially, you know, you got family, you got a job, you got, you know, and it's just a lot of work. And then you do all of that. It culminates at the World Championship. You happen to win it. You're not going to keep doing that for a club match, you know, or, you know, even a national championship, you may not do that unless you really want to win it. But, you know, it's obviously that's the secret sauce. The secret sauce is work really freaking hard, outwork everybody else. And then, even then, success is not guaranteed.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes it tough, man. And that's what I mean. You want it, enjoy it, have fun with it, do whatever the hell you want to do. You're the world champion. Nobody's going to take that away.
Yeah. Like I said, it's tough. Kind of ventured into Centerfire, and learning. It's like I said, it's a totally different sport. Even though it's the same sport, it's totally different. You got load development, reload, recoil management. So it's been fun. I've learned a lot in the past few weeks. Get better every week.
Yeah, well, you know, it's different. It's, you know, you talk about you shot Rimfire silhouette. When I first started getting into competitive shooting, Mark Farr, he's kind of one of the guys that kind of got me into it. He's a silhouette shooter, and Mark got me. You know, I met him and I was shooting F-class with him, but he kind of took me under his wing for a while, and I'd go shoot silhouette with him, and that's kind of his cup of tea. And we shoot Rimfire and Centerfire, and I'm like, man, I really like this Rimfire stuff. That Centerfire, it just, you know, offhand, 500 meters, trying to manage recoil. It was different. Even though it was the same thing, it was drastically different.
Oh yeah, I tell everybody, you know, if you haven't shot silhouette and you want to be humbled, about how good a shooter you are, go shoot a silhouette match and come back and talk to me.
Yeah. It's not easy. And yeah, but I learned a lot. I mean, I learned a lot about, I mean, you got to shoot everything offhand. You know, it's freaking hard. Talk about props. There's no props there. There's no sandbags. There's no rear support. It's just you.
You and a rifle. That's it.
Yeah. Very, very fun stuff. Well, Chris, man, I wish you all the luck in this new endeavor of yours, Centerfire. I don't know how much is the fire burning in that sport. What's the goal there?
So my goal right now is to win a Pro Series 2-day, and then eventually chase a world championship in it.
Okay.
But I gotta get the first pro match out of the way before I start looking at a world.
Yeah, baby steps. Good stuff, man. Well, I appreciate you being on the show. I appreciate you sharing your experience with us, and I believe a lot of people are going to get a lot of benefit from it.
I appreciate you having me.
All right, man. Take care.
Yes, sir.
Keep them centered.